Hi, everybody. I'm Alan Hollander. I am the CEO of ePractice Manager, and I am your moderator today, your host of our podcast, Inside the Practice, with my wonderful co-host, Sarah Boylan. Hello, Sarah.
Nice to see you, Alan.
Yes, good, good. We have a terrific guest today. We're very excited about. Brandon is the CEO and founder of a company known as Fist Bump. As a disclaimer here, his company also produces our podcast. We're happy to say, along with his team, his worldwide team, I might say, and they do a wonderful job at that. But Brandon is a very interesting guy, and that's why he's here. He is an expert in personal branding and reputation building. I guess if somebody wanted to just give him a generality, to say, "Oh yeah, he's a marketing guy," but it's just that term is so misused and overused and not understood and so forth. And I'm hoping today that Brandon can give us some insights and better understanding of marketing. We're going to talk a little bit about reputation building. Brandon has helped business leaders amplify their voices, build trust, create more sales opportunities, and we're delighted to have him here. He's been an entrepreneur, a successful guy for many years. Brandon, it's great to have you here, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me, Alan and Sarah. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here and have a good chat.
Good. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's nice. We were chatting before the official start here, and we like to keep these as conversational and as informal as possible, while still providing insights, particularly to our dental and dental specialty market out there. And this just kind of segues into the first question I have. You've talked about what is correct messaging in marketing. I have seen people for years. Again, let's keep it in the dental world. The hundreds and hundreds, really thousands of practices with whom we've dealt, and they will throw out what they feel is the message for their audience that their market wants to hear, but it's not. It's not, and it shows up in kind of in the lack of response. And they try something, they go, "Oh, I spent a fortune on this and it didn't work." What can you tell us about how a business or a practice can develop a message that is going to resonate more with their market? How do they get that focus, Brandon? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a great question, Alan and Sarah and Alan. Thanks for having me on your show. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and share. I think very, very often marketing is one of those things, and messaging is one of those areas where if you can, we're in an English speaking environment right now. And so anybody that could read, write, and speak English is like, oh, I could write marketing messages. Like I could create an email campaign, or I could write a billboard, or I could do whatever. And the challenge with that is that there is a lot of data-driven facts and practices that are really behind good marketing. And one of the biggest mistakes I see companies make is they write messaging about themselves instead of messaging that is about their clients. So the very simple thing is, it's easy for us to say what we do for our clients, but what's more important is what do we do for them, right? And in your space, it might be, yeah, you keep my teeth healthy, But maybe what you really do for me is you help me not be stressed out with my trip to the dentist. And maybe that's more important to me than just talking about my oral health. So putting ourselves in our customers' shoes and making sure that we are speaking about what we do for them, not just what we do.
Yeah, love that. That's great. Great. You and I have talked about that book, Story Branding, where he says uh, the customer is the hero of the story. It's not about you. And I think this is a misconception that I could not agree with you more. People think that, well, I'm the message, and you're not. The message is about the client. It's all about them, and it becomes a real habit. Pitching.
So, what do you think is the best way to capture that information then? Like, obviously, you can go get Google reviews. And I know we'll touch base on social media, but specifically to get the story from the client or the patient, maybe revisiting some of the questions that we ask. Hey, don't just leave a 5-star Google review. What specifically can we bring to the table with that?
Yeah, that's a good question, Sarah. And I would say, I'm going to say something that might be a little controversial for a lot of people right now. But I believe, because everything is changing so quickly. I mean, if you think about, for both of you in all areas of your lives, do you just not feel like change is happening at us faster than ever in our lives?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You may call it an ideal customer profile, or you may call it messaging. Like, I have a workshop that we call messaging that creates customer conversations. At the core of it, it's who are our clients and what do we know about them? What do they need? And you dive into all that. And there's all those fancy terms, right? Firmographics and demographics and psychographics and all that. All that means is this: what do we know about our clients? What do they want? What's important to them? What are ways that we could speak to them that they're going to go and capture their attention? I believe now a lot of companies, they would launch, they would do ICP, they would do messaging, they would create vision, mission, values, and goals. They'd throw them up on the wall, put them in a frame, and then forget about them and go on doing all their work of their business. I believe that work, Sarah, to your question, like, what do we do? I think that work is so important. It's always been important, but I think revisiting that on an annual basis is worth the refresher, because there's so many new tech coming into every industry. There's so many new opportunities. People are learning about new stuff all the time on TikTok.
Right.
What are your customers thinking about? What's important to them? Asking them those questions. If I owned a practice, I would be asking my clients every time they come in certain questions, rotating to learn about them. What's important to you? What are the top 2 reasons why you chose our dental practice versus others? Before you leave today, what would be 2 things that are important to you to know about before you leave? Like, those types of questions tell you the content that you need to create, whether it's a brochure, it's your website, it's social media, it's an email. They'll tell you. You just have to be strategic and persistent and consistent to ask.
That is great. What a great point.
Yeah.
We need to note this soundbite, because I can't tell you how I could not agree with you more, Brandon. I know I don't consider myself an expert on this, but it seems obvious. We do CE lectures all over. We've been doing them for many years. We always do we do pre and post talk surveys with those questions. And I think if speaking of doctors, I think in a practice, if this was done religiously, they would know exactly what to promote. exactly what services and why people are coming in. They would know exactly how to message their audience. Great
And
point.
I'll give you an example in a company that I owned before, and we were serving professional service providers. A couple years into it, we did a refresh on our ICP and our messaging. What have we learned lately? And we did a brainstorm session.
Excuse me, tell us what ICP is.
Ideal customer profile.
There
And
we go.
there's a little like on my show we had a guest and he's like, oh, I don't call it the ideal customer profile anymore because no clients are ideal. He calls it our target customer profile. That's fine.
Okay.
For me, it's
Okay.
semantics. For him, it was a big difference.
Okay.
But the idea is, who's the perfect client for us? Like, and I would imagine for a lot of your customers, are you a family office? Are you specializing in certain areas? Are you in, oral surgery? Even in different industries I've seen, like in real estate and others, I specialize in condos. Well, you would speak very differently to a person that's looking to buy a condo than a farm. You would speak very differently to a single person looking for dentistry than as an example, a mom with a lot of kids. Right? Those are very different messaging. So knowing who your best customer is, and here's another soundbite for you, Alan. If you try to speak to everyone, you end up speaking to no one.
Mm-hmm.
Often we're so nervous that we're going to miss people that we try to make our messaging so inclusive that we end up not speaking to anyone because they look at our messaging and go, that's not speaking to me.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
Good.
Yeah, you said that on the call the other day, and I took that to heart too, right? Like it really is like, who is my, our target market and how can we get them re-engaged? One of the things I want to touch on as a seasoned practice manager, I thought it's really important to train the staff to have these conversations with the patients when they're coming in and when they're exiting, right? So do you have any insight on what the best method to, get that information from them is?
Yeah, that's another good question. It's hard, right? Getting people to do some of these things. I think first and foremost, it starts at the top and it becomes a culture issue. If we as the owner, generally the dentist owner, talk about this a lot and re-emphasizing how important it is, how important it is, how important it is. And then, depending on your culture, build in some sort of a system to, I'm going to say reward. And reward might not be the right word for everybody, but if something's important to you and it's really important to you, we talk about it more and we put kind of our money where our mouth is. So if it's, hey, we're going to say today or this week, we're going to make it our goal that 70% of everybody who comes in is going to fill out this 2-question or 3-question survey. If we get 70% every day this week, Dunkin' Donuts run is on me. Something, it doesn't have to be huge, but when you make it more like we all know from apps and things, everything gets gamified. Well, there's a reason. There's actually studies behind gamification. So if we gamify it or we reward it and we're consistent with it. Now, I'll tell you the one thing you can't do. You can't say, hey, we're going to do this. This is important, and then never bring it up again or not talk about it all the time. Because what you say and what you do, if they're different, people are going to look at what you do.
Right.
You say. So I think there's a lot of different ways to do it, but gamifying it, rewarding it, making it part of your culture, celebrating when you hit, not punishing when you don't, but necessarily creating that right system based on your culture.
That's super good insight.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I just think, it's interesting. Every dental practice software that I'm familiar with has a field when a new patient comes in that asks, where the patient came from, who sent you into the office.
Right.
And I can't tell you the number of offices where when you say, okay, good, let's do an analysis of where your patients are coming from, and they don't have the information.
Yeah.
So you're right. It comes from the top down, and it's that basic inquisitiveness. This is what you're talking about. It's the interest in that patient and that in the customer.
Yeah.
And always asking them questions that get them communicating to you, because that's how you learn about them.
Yeah, and like I said before, you've got to make it part of your culture. Like, hey, this is what we do here. This is how we do things here. Emphasizing the customer is so important to us. We need to know these things, because then the questions you're asking people, it could be done at the front desk when they check in. It could be included in the paperwork they fill out. It could be included in a chit chat while they're waiting in the chair and you're getting your tools prepared and ready. Like, if you make it part of your culture, then all of a sudden it's ingrained in all these different areas. And I put this type of work around your messaging in those core foundational actions that you need to do as a company. And yeah, they can be boring. They can feel boring. They can feel repetitive. But if we do the foundational work right, it's like building a building, right? You've got to have the right foundation to build the right building or structure on top of it. If we do the foundational work right, then everything else gets easier. So if we do this ideal customer profile and asking them questions, we know our messaging, then guess what? When we go to create brochures or billboards or direct mail or social posts, it works. We get better results.
Right on. So, yeah, so true. I mean, what you said about it being very sort of almost unexciting. It's almost a little bit like the repetitiveness of it. But these simple concepts are always the most powerful. So Brandon, you hire an expensive marketing firm, of which we have many in dentistry, who and I have clients they'll spend tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars with less than expected outcomes. Sometimes they're okay. Now and then they're very, very good. I'm not dissing these experts, but do they know your market? Do they know your demographic? Do they have your data? You can feed them that data, and then hire them to use that data in a way that perhaps you don't know. You don't have the expertise, but
I would coach anybody that's looking to find a marketing agency. The questions you ask them about, hey, when it comes to creating content, how do you go about creating that content? What's important to you? What type of data and research and information do you use in order to create the messaging or the look, the feel, the brand for our project? Like, what goes into that? And I would just say, and again, I'm not going to put down any other companies, but if they're not client focused, they may not be the right firm for you. They may not be worth spending the money with.
I hear you.
Okay.
I'm going to jump in. Sarah, go ahead. You want to ask?
Well, no, that was good. I was just I'm chomping at the bit to go into social media, because
I was going to jump in. I have a question here that you and I did kind of went over. Look, Brandon, I don't have to talk to you about social media. It's become an integral part of marketing. You've mentioned how you can use this to show who you are, to just kind of get across a more personal message, the human side of the human side of the individual, or the human side of the company. Talk about this, how you use this to build trust in the market, because You see a lot of this on social media.
Yeah, social media is it's kind of still this weird thing, and if you think about it, it's still early, it's still young. I mean, for most of us, what we've been using social media from maybe 2010ish.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, you can jump into the early MySpace, early AOL, but it was very different. But social media and this internet kind of 2.0 to 3.0, as we know, it's still very young, and we're learning a lot. Yeah, I think that the core of it for me is humanity, especially in the dental industry. I mean, I don't know where anyone else lives, but I know for me, there's probably 50 options for me within a 10-mile radius of my house. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah.
So when it comes, yeah, when it comes to marketing, where are people spending a lot of time?
Mm-hmm.
They're on their phones. If you don't believe me, go to Dunkin', go to Starbucks, go to someplace around the corner for lunch and look at anybody standing in line and tell me what they're doing.
Exactly.
95% of the time, they're staring at their phone. And if they're not checking email, they're probably scrolling through social media.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big
Mm-hmm.
captive audience.
Mm-hmm.
The number one is, I think, getting confident that, like, hey, my customers are here. And then the second thing is, yeah, what you do and who you are and what you do for them is very important. But how we portray that and how we portray ourselves, I find, is extremely important, because at the core of every human is emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And we remember those things that we can connect with humans much better than we can facts. So, how are you portraying what? Again, I'm going to go back to the culture of your organization. What's the culture of your organization? Are you fun? Are you funny? Are you energetic? Are you, like, whatever it is fine. But if you're not strategically portraying that in your social media, then there's a disconnect between who you really are and how you're portraying yourself. And people feel that. Like, they'll see you one way in social media, then they'll go to your office and not experience it and not come back. And they may
Right.
not even be able to pinpoint it, but it was just like, oh, it was fine, but it didn't meet their expectations because they perceived you this way. So who you are in your office, be that. And I know, again, it's another one of these that's kind of scary, along with targeting a certain group, but if we're that, we're going to miss out on these people. Maybe not, but the reality is, those people that you think you're going to miss out, they're not your buyer. Embrace who you are. I like to call it, with knowing our humanity and knowing our culture, knowing our brand, knowing our style. It's that uniqueifier. It is uniquely your company, but if you're scared to embrace it, you will confuse your audience.
Yeah, it's a great point. There's that quote that I really that always resonated with me. It's from Maya Angelou. Yeah, it's not what you say to people that they remember. It's how you make them feel.
Yep.
And you can have an interaction with somebody and you just don't remember what they said, but you walk away, you feel very good about them. There's something, you feel better in some way. You can be in a restaurant, can be an absolutely 3-star, but how do they make you feel?
Yep.
It's the people. It's not the food. It's not the stuff that you're eating. You're in an office, you're meeting with a doctor, a staff member. This is so important. It's that connection with people. It's communication. Really, really, really true. So social, and so basically what you're saying, and I agree with you, is that you can use social media to get across more about who you are. I know you mentioned the other day doing shots or videos or bits that don't really have much to do with your business, but they're kind of about you out on wherever you were. you're out on a lake fishing,
Yeah.
you're on a trip somewhere. I think people, really enjoy this.
They do. I think we like to know people. I mean, look, is reality TV big?
Mm. Oh my
It's
gosh.
huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. Why? Now, granted, okay, there can people say reality TV is scripted now, maybe. But we used to say we used to say, oh, things were, it was like a train wreck. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. What's the core of this? We like to peer in on what's going on in other people's lives. Like, just did admit it. It's interesting. We want to
Yeah.
know what's going on.
Yeah.
And social media gives the opportunity to do that, but we've got to figure out again who we are. So, getting into our messaging and foundation, part of that ideal customer profile work, when I do it with people, it's mission, vision, values, and goals are all part of knowing your ideal customer profile, because your ICP needs to drive those, or vice versa. Your mission, vision, values, and goals needs to drive who your ideal customer profile is. Because if those are not coherent across each other, there'll be a disconnect and people will feel it. And they may not know why. They may not go, oh, I don't like this practice because of this, but they'll leave there and go, yeah, it was okay. And there's no loyalty to it. So if you're not being strategic with that across the ICP, the vision, mission, values, and goals, and then it comes out in your marketing, in your branding. And I'll give you two examples. I have a friend, and I won't use names, but who owns a dental practice. And she is a hoot. She's full of energy. Everything I see about her on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, whether it's her person or her practice, is the same. It's her. She is embraced, and she's just fully who she is. And I would imagine that when people go into her practice, they have expectations of who she's going to be, and it works because she's fully embraced who she is. I have another person I know in a different professional service industry that there's a total disconnect. Their marketing, because I know them personally, and then I look at their marketing and just go, that ain't you.
Mm.
It's just not you. And it'll work, but it won't work as well as it could.
Mm.
There's got to be that embracing of your character, and I think then bringing our humanity into it. Now, I do want to address this, because I can hear people already going, well, I don't want to bring my personal stuff into it. Okay, I didn't say personal, I said bring your humanity.
Yeah.
What are topics that you're willing to talk about with a patient? You talk about, hey, you like to fish, you talk about your hobbies, you talk about your kids, you talk about vacations, you talk about sports, talk about those things. This doesn't have to be full. A lot of times people, when they think of social media, because they'll think of some of these influencers who go online and they go, oh, you know what, I was an alcoholic and then this happened, or I was in depression. Like that doesn't have to be your social media. It's not going full open Komodo and sharing the deepest, darkest secrets of your life. For some influencers, that's their strategy. God bless them, let them do it. But it doesn't mean that's what social media is. Have your goals, be strategic. Hey, these are the 3 or 4 topics from my humanity that I'm willing to share in public. Mm-hmm. You're a big sports fan? Talk about your team.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, you're a parent and you're really involved with your kids? Talk about being a parent. What are some of those topics that other people will resonate with you about that aren't so personal you feel exposed?
Yeah. That's very good. It's very good. I mean, I know when you go to a website and you see a doctor's website, this is just a personal, this is a personal thing. I don't know. When I see a great shot of the doctor with his or her family, I go, oh, that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the shot of camping in Alaska or some sort of trip they're taking. I think these are the realities I think that people can really relate to and create that kind of experience that we're talking about here. You know, this is really these are really fundamentals. Individuals listening, I can think some of them go, well, really, this is somewhat esoteric, but it isn't really. It's a bit of a 1,000-foot view on these fundamental core policies and concepts about what truly drives the business.
Yeah.
All right. This is great. I love this, Brandon. Let me ask you this. I got a last one here. You talk about metrics and data tracking. We do a lot of that. We're very big believers in that. If you can't measure it, you have no real way to create accountability. You have no way of telling, are we growing? Are we not growing? I think one of the reasons people don't keep those metrics is because they just don't really want to look at the numbers. But what metrics or data do you watch to track marketing effectiveness? People sometimes keep them, but they don't keep an eye on these carefully enough. So I'm interested in your thoughts on this.
So again, I may add something a little more controversial here, and I'll talk about general marketing, and then I'll talk about social media specifically. I know that's important for Sarah as well. Look, I think for me, what's the ultimate goal? If the ultimate goal is revenue, we're looking at the data points that are actually driving revenue. Now, here's one that really frustrates me, is looking at email open rates. I believe email open rates is just such a bad data point these days because there's a lot of technology now that will open an email and it'll create an open rate, but it doesn't mean a human eyeball looked at it. It means the software they use opened it to scan it or to open the pictures there for the human, but the human never really looked at it. So I like, from an email perspective, I like to look at clicks. I like to look at click rates. This is another area where bringing our humanity and bringing non-businessy information into play and making sure that our message is really targeted to our ideal customers. Because if we're not going to look at just, hey, we got 70% open rate, but we sent out 10,000, we had a 70% open rate and 2 clicks. If the real metrics here that we're looking at is how many people did we get to, ask for an appointment or fill out the form to get the free whitener or whatever it may be, who cares if we got 80% open rate? And who cares if we sent out 10,000 pieces? We got 2 clicks and no one filled out the form. We failed. It didn't work. So data is really important, but we've got to make sure that we're looking at the real data. And here's another one. I don't mean to piss off marketers, but a lot of times marketers are going to give you the data points that make them look great. We got an 80% open rate. Woohoo! But nobody clicked.
Yeah.
Right. So really make sure that you're looking at the data that is most relevant to you and why. Here's an example I'll use within social. There may be posts that get really great engagement and a lot of comments, but they don't drive business. And maybe your post that's more focused on business and maybe a call to action doesn't get as high of engagements. Both are good. Just be aware of what your goals are and what you're doing and what the point is of each post. So the example might be, I've got a post that I did. I do Jeep thoughts every Friday. What it is for me is I have a Jeep. I love my Jeep. I love Jeep community because Jeep community for me is representative of networking and building community and business. And a lot of times when I'm driving, like anyone else, when you're driving, you have a lot of thoughts. You have a lot of things you think about when you're driving. Like I turn on music, but honestly, I don't totally listen to it. I'm just kind of stuck in my thoughts. So Jeep Thoughts came out. Now, I do a Jeep Thoughts video every Friday. So it's for repetition. I've got, and just as an example, I got an email from a CEO a few weeks ago, or a direct message on LinkedIn said, first thing was, love your Jeep Thoughts videos.
Nice.
The connection of Jeep Thoughts and the video and the consistency helped her remember me. She didn't remember me that I'm a digital marketing guy. She didn't remember me that I'm the host of my show. She didn't remember me for all these certain logical, factual things about my history. She remembered me because Jeep Thoughts resonate with her because she has a Jeep and she drives her Jeep around on her farm. Personal humanity.
Yeah, it's great.
But this Jeep Thoughts video that I did, I had somebody in town. We were in the car together. We did a Jeep Thoughts video together. Great engagement, which is good. No business came out of it. No leads. No, and that's okay because I knew that was for that. So, and then I have another post that I did was very direct about here's how to do things. And there was a call to action. If anyone wanted to talk about these, or you have this challenge in your company, these are ways that we can help. Very little engagement. But that post got shared by somebody who was a leader in an organization. And then on that, some of the people from their company were chatting about it because they're like, oh, this is interesting. We haven't tried that in our company. So guess what I did? I started reaching out to those folks going, hey, I see you're all talking about this. How can I help? Mm-hmm. But that post didn't get a whole lot of engagement, but one person who reshared it made that entire post is totally worth it. Yeah. So data is important, but if we're looking at the wrong data for the wrong purpose, none of it matters.
Yeah.
Great point. Yeah. Thank you, Brandon. Wow. Brandon, this could be, we could go on for a long time here, man. I love listening to you. Love the conversations here. We do need to wrap it up. Let everybody.
I've been told I'm known to talk.
It's okay.
Well, it's all good, really.
It's okay. You're on here, so you can talk, and we can listen to you. Let our public know where can people find you, Brandon, and find Fist Bump.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. So people can find Fist Bump at online. Our website is getfistbumps.com. Remember, give me a fist bump. And to remember us by, the reason I call my company Fist Bump is because anybody will shake your hand in business. You meet somebody, you shake their hand. You have a horrible conversation with them, you still shake their hand and say bye. But when you get a fist bump from somebody, it means you made a connection. There's a rapport between the two of you. And that's really what we do for our clients. We use different digital platforms like live shows and podcasts and the content that comes out of them in order to share it with their ideal customer profile in order to earn more fist bumps. So you can find me at getfistbumps.com as a company. I'm across multiple social media platforms, but LinkedIn is my favorite. You can find me there on LinkedIn, and it's Brandon Lee Digital is my personal URL on LinkedIn. If you just go do a search for Brandon Lee, I'll pop up eventually. There's a lot of us.
Wonderful, Brandon. Delighted to have you here. Some great points on correct messaging. I think the takeaway here on the messaging is, talk to your patients, and you'll know what the message is going to be. After you only have to do it for a month or so, or a couple of months, you'll see a consensus. Why are they coming in? What do they like about you? What can you change? There's your marketing. There's your marketing message. Incredibly important. And then love the topic of humanizing what you do. That personal connection. We've had a policy that we've used for years and years. Oh my gosh, and that is that nobody has a bad day in the practice. There's no such thing as a bad day, and anybody who comes in you know, I don't mean this physically, but you know, you treat them as a friend, and you embrace them, you welcome them in, and that alone, you know, that creates a feeling and a connection that you can't create any other way. It's a human connection. It's like what you said. It's the emotion, and love what you're saying about the metrics. You know, it's yeah, the opening. Yeah, I get it. I get it. What does it do to the bottom line? That's quite real to me. So thank you so much for this.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we're gonna continue these conversations, Brandon, for a while. I'm happy to be connected with Fist Bumpings as well. You guys have been very helpful to us, and I think you will be going forward for quite some time. I'm Alan Hollander, my lovely cohort here, Sarah Boylan. We're from ePractice Manager, and we're here to help you grow your practice. And what we do is we handle the business so you can do your clinical work, and we take that business stuff off your plate, which ideally makes your lives better. So thanks for coming. See you again on Inside the Practice. Take care, folks.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brandon.
My pleasure.